Hello and welcome to the Tennessee Informer. Thank you all for being with us. I hope everybody fared well through the nasty storm last night. A few weeks ago, I had John Llewellyn, candidate for the State House District 78, on the show to tell us why he's running and where he stands on important issues, as well as what he would like to accomplish. The winner of the Republican primary will more than likely be the next representative for the 78th District, since it's unlikely a Democrat could win that conservative district. But John Llewellyn is not the only Republican in the race. Perry Keenan from Cheatham County, also a former small-town mayor, has thrown his hat into the ring as well. He's with us in the studio today to tell us why he is running and what he stands for as well. But first, it's time for the Informer Report. We are over 2 weeks into the war with Iran. No need to repeat everything I'm sure you have heard on the news, including propaganda from Iran as well as the Trump administration, but a few things to think about. Despite Trump's stating he'll feel it in his bones when we should end this war, he seems to forget the enemy always gets a vote. Also, I don't recall anything in the Constitution about the president feeling it in his bones when to end a conflict. Given the fact that this could last a while and have dire consequences, especially if we end up with boots on the ground, oh wait, we're already sending 5,000 Marines, could we maybe get some input from Congress? Yes, our Congress sucks, and half of them are traitors, and the majority of the GOP in Congress are worthless as well. But at what point do we follow the Constitution? Or do we accept the idea that the president can on his own engage in acts of war until he decides not to without a declaration of war? That hasn't worked out very well for us in the past, especially doing the fighting over the years. The people who've had to do the fighting, when it's just the president running the show, that has not really turned out good for us at all. So how does that look in the future when we end up with a Democrat in office? Just something to think about. False flag warnings. There are those out there that are warning that there will be false flag attacks designed to galvanize support for the war in Iran and not to fall for it. My question is, how would we even know, or why should we believe an attack carried out by Muslims is a false flag? Our border was wide open for 4 years under Biden. We know there are Islamic terror cells in America. Oh, but not to worry, Trump says we're watching them. How about arresting them? The watch out for Mossad CIA to do a false flag crowd seems to forget that killing the infidel, that would be us, is in accordance with their doctrine. Likewise, since we are currently fighting Iran, why would they not use sleeper cells to hit us here? So we're supposed to ignore the very real threat Islam presents to our country just because we might have questions about the current war with Iran? Does that erase their doctrine and history? Should we forget about all the Islamic terrorism that we've experienced in the U.S., including here in Tennessee? Some people's suspicion of Israel's influence in our decision to go to war, and that relationship in general has destroyed their ability to reason and recognize that Islam, by its doctrine, whether Sunni or Shia, is a threat. The Blackburn campaign is making a big to-do out of winning the Williamson County straw poll at the Reagan Day event this past Saturday. She received 70% of the vote, Representative Monty Fritz received 15%, and Representative Rose received 13%. A few things to keep in mind. Williamson County is her home district. That's where she lives. Of the 630 people that attended, only 374 voted in the poll. Marcia bought 210 of the tickets for those attending, and a PAC supporting her bought another 100. John Rose purchased 10 tickets. Monty did not attend, but did have some supporters there. So in her home county, she bought the majority of the tickets for people already supporting her, and it appears that maybe even some of them didn't vote for her. This is not the first time she has bought a venue in order to make it look like she has a lot of support. In fact, I had somebody tell me that at an event late last year, she wanted to buy up all the tickets. She wants the public to believe she is inevitable, and many out there are gullible enough to fall for it. She is trying to buy this election. She wants to create the appearance that she has the support of a majority of citizens, yet she refuses to debate. She doesn't even respect the citizens of Tennessee enough to hold a debate. Unfortunately, she is the poster child for many of our elected Republican officials in Tennessee. Most in our super worthless supermajority in Tennessee are supporting her. That alone should tell truly conservative and constitutionally minded Republicans not to support Marcia. She is truly the DEI candidate in this race, as in deceitful, entitled, and incorrigible. Tennessee can do better. That wraps up this installment of the Informer Report. If you have a news story that you want to alert us to, be sure to send us an email at teeninformer.tv@gmail.com. Now a word from our sponsor, LifeWave, a unique product that uses light reflection to activate the body's own natural energy, supporting healing, improving performance, and combating aging without drugs or stimulants. Check it out, and we'll be right back with our guest, Perry Keenan, candidate for the 78th District race.
Light, the energy of life itself. Since the beginning of time, light has sustained us, fueled our growth, and shaped the world. Even Einstein recognized that everything we are is made of light. But what if we could harness the light within us, not just to live, but to renew, restore, and rejuvenate? Introducing LifeWave X39, the first product in the world that activates stem cells using our body's own light. Backed by clinical research, multiple patents, and over 10 years of stem cell research, a revolutionary wearable light technology that unlocks the power of activating our own stem cells with a single, safe, affordable, non-transdermal patch that puts you back in control of how you look, feel, and perform. Unlike drugs or chemicals, X39 works naturally, awakening your body's ability to heal and thrive. It's time to unlock your full potential, restore your vitality, and embrace a healthier, more vibrant you.
Welcome back, and now to our guest, Perry Keenan. Perry, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you? Thank you
have
for
you.
having me in the studio.
Yeah, it's
This
good
is
to
a
have you.
phenomenal setup.
We don't get a lot of people to come to the studio, so it's always good to have an in-studio guest.
Oh,
So
thank you.
I want to get right to it.
Sure.
So now I had John Llewellyn on here a couple weeks ago, and I want to be fair. I'll be fair with the time, and I'm pretty much going to ask you the same questions I asked him, although as we're talking, other things might come up.
Sure.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. So my name is Perry Keenan, born and raised here in the district of Cheatham County, and born and raised Ashland City, graduate of the class in 1989. Family moved in, and we called it home at an early age of 19, I believe, 69, 70, somewhere right in there. And Ashland City's great. And, you know, it's one of those things where you have that hometown pride, and you know it's phenomenal when you've got that opportunity to go in and kind of represent the way that hopefully we're going to be able to do with this election coming up. So a little bit about me. Again, born and raised in the district, class of '89, graduate in the high school. Kind of aged myself a little bit there. I actually think I'm the oldest candidate in this race, but that's okay. I won't hold the youth of my others against me.
Can't imagine where you got that
Right,
one from.
right. God bless Ronald Reagan. So anyway. It's one of those where went to college locally at Belmont, and I'm not ashamed to say that my grades were less than stellar. Ended up almost flunking out of Belmont, and mom and dad said, well, you know, now you're going to be paying for college. You can go anywhere you can afford. So I said, all right, well, went to Nashville Tech, got a 2-year degree there, went to Austin P, finished up my 4-year degree there. So for people in Clarksville, let's go P. And then, started in business with mom and dad in our family business. There's entrepreneurial minded, and it's just kind of always been in our blood. And then in 2004, had an opportunity to get involved in politics locally over in Pleasant View. Ran for city council and got elected, and then 2005 appointed vice mayor over in Pleasant View, Tennessee. And so for people that are watching this back home, that is in the north end of Cheatham County, right off of Interstate 24, exit 24, and spent 4 years there. And I was heavily involved in real estate, and about at the end of that term of 2008, the real estate market crashed. Not amazing time to be involved in real estate, and so just felt like I needed to pull back and focus on, you know, God, family, and work. And did that, and then 2012 had an opportunity to run for mayor, and again, living in Pleasant View, got elected 2012, then served my first term as mayor, and then reelected in 2016. And then I believe in term limits, and so I self-term limited out at that point and said I'm not going to run, for a third term there. So took a break in 2020, and then 2023 had an opportunity to run for chairman of our local Republican Party. Got elected to that, and then here we are today. Now Mary Littleton made her announcement fall of 2025 saying that she was going to step down, and so I, in December, stepped back from Cheatham County Republican Party and said, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring and let's giddy up.
Okay. So you gave us some idea, but tell us some of the things that you believe in.
Absolutely. So, it's easy to give the Republican talking points of saying, fiscally responsible and, I'm conservative and, I believe in God, family, and guns and those kinds of things. But I'm very fortunate that my track record actually and my voting record, which is a very public voting record, backs that up. Fiscal responsibility was something that we absolutely just dialed in on during my term as mayor and just believe in that wholeheartedly. It's one of those where we had an opportunity to really lead and put ourselves forward because for the city of Pleasant View, we did not have a city property tax. And all of our income had to come from state shared revenues that would come in from sales tax that was generated inside of our district. So for my entire 8 years, we stayed on point, on budget every single year. And it's just really proud of that fiscal responsibility, that mindset on that. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So why are you running? I mean, you're not running at county level again. Now you're running to be a state rep. And what made you decide to run?
Honestly, it's one of those things that you step in and you look at the district as a whole. And the leadership that we've had in the district, from Philip Johnson, who did a great job, State Representative Mary Littleton, who's done an outstanding job since 2012. When I got elected mayor, she got elected to state representative. And she's done a phenomenal job. And looking to the things that they have just kind of set in motion, I want to see us continue to grow on keeping that small town feel, staying true to our rural roots, but also making sure that we're pushing for things like the infrastructure needs that we've got. For example, one of the things that I hear a lot in our district is TDOT. We need to help encourage them to put the forefront or put Highway 49 and improvements on Highway 48 over in Dickson County, put those to the forefront of the discussion instead of just kind of continuing to kick that can down the road. Right. My track record while I was mayor in Pleasant View was one that we had a really good working relationship with TDOT. And I want to try to go in and leverage some of that relationship and some of those some of those connections that we've had. A few have retired since then, but
yeah, I was wondering. That was going to be my next question.
Right?
Still
yeah,
there.
A few have retired, but we're very fortunate that I've just built so much goodwill over the years of being able to say, okay, let's find a way to work together. Let's find a way to get this thing done, and let's cut some of the government nonsense out of this, and let's put some common sense behind it, and let's lead like we have some common sense here in the state of Tennessee. And we're very fortunate that to a certain extent we're in a financial position to be able to do some things that a lot of other states are not financially able to do. So let's lead like it. So that's one of the things that we want to do. I know that in our district we have an opioid epidemic that really needs a lot of attention.
Right. That's kind of like TDOT. That's everywhere.
It's everywhere. It is. And knowing that, like for today, I had a meeting with our local sheriff's department, and we sat down and talked about some different legislation and things that are kind of circulating through the House right now. But for them, they need to know that they've got somebody that is really listening, like other leadership has, but they need to make sure that they don't lose that. My track record again speaks for itself with that. During my term, my 8 years as mayor, we backed our department 100%. So much so that even the sheriff's department locally worked with us as well. And they said, gosh, you're rock solid all the way through. So, yeah, I'm proud of that.
Okay, good. So are there some other legislative goals you have?
Yeah, part of part of being a state representative is working through the legislative aspect, and there's things that you always want to try and accomplish legislatively, but also part of that from my point of view, and maybe it's because of the 8 years that I had as mayor, or my wife, who was also the director of the Chamber of Commerce for a time while I was mayor. It's one of those where I did more stuff outside of just Pleasant View. We did things in the entire county. I would be in Pegram, I'd be in Ashland City, I'd be in Kingston Springs, all throughout Cheatham County, because she was doing events across the board. And it's one of those things that you kind of step back and you look at and say, the job of legislator, yes, it's working through legislation. Yes, it's making sure that you're being fiscally responsible and you're not putting too much government in, and you're leading like Republicans should. But also, it's to kind of be the head cheerleader for your district as well, and making sure that if there's an opportunity to work with things like the Department of Tourism, for example, we had the Commissioner of Tourism come in a couple of weeks ago and speak in Ashland City at a great meeting, and he was kind of giving the numbers of what kind of revenue comes in to the district as a whole through tourism dollars, and man, it's a high return on investment. But I don't think that there's enough cohesiveness where we're looking at the opportunities to say, the district covers the eastern half of Dickson County, covers all of Cheatham. What can we do to kind of tie those two together so that if people want to make a day trip out of it, like they've done the Nashville honky tonks and stuff for 3 days, and now they're ready to detox a little bit and get outside and get some nature, then great. Let's send them to Kingston Springs, and let's let them go to Tippecanoe or one of the canoe resources that they've got down on the Harpeth, and then let's send them over to Montgomery Bell and let them spend a day in a park, and then let's let them go over and spend a night in a hotel in Dickson County, and then go eat at some of the amazing restaurants that they have there, or vice versa, and come over into Cheatham and eat at some of the establishments that we've got.
These things already exist. I mean, is it just better advertising or what?
I think it's just pushing to make sure that you're an advocate, because while they do exist, there's just not a lot of that cohesiveness where the two are working together. For our district, Dave, it's almost like you've got 3 different sections. You've got everything that's north of the Cumberland River for like Ashland City and Pleasant View. You've got the south side, which is kind of the Kingston Springs, Pegram, Burns area, and then you've got the stuff over towards Dickson, the White Bluff and right. Charlotte and that kind of thing. And it's like you've almost got these 3 pockets, but there's just not a lot of cohesiveness between the 3. I want to be able to make sure that we've got departments and agencies and that type of thing that are all working together, because I can promise you the same issues that they have over in Burns, they're probably facing in White Bluff, and they probably, in working with like the Dickson County mayor or the Dickson City mayor, again, same thing for Cheatham County. Like all of these guys have these same things. And even, for example, in my meeting this morning with the Sheriff's Department, they talked about, issues that they've got that are the exact same thing that's going on the other side of the county line. What can we do to get these departments to work together so that, we're pushing the entire district forward in a way that is good and cohesive?
Okay. All right. So what, if any, PACs or other organizations have endorsed you?
Well, technically, it's early on, so we have not had any PACs yet that have come out and said, we're going to endorse specifically. There's been some conversation had with a few, but sometimes PACs don't get involved necessarily in primaries, and it's one of those where if one comes up and says, yep, absolutely, we're 100% going to be behind you, you're our guy, and we want to run with you, then you've got to make sure it's a good fit for your district. Got to make sure that they align well with you, with your morals and your ethics and that type of thing. And, honestly, you just have to make sure that you're kind of checking your ego at the door a little bit, because it's great for somebody to want to dangle a check. Right. But you've really got to make sure that you're just not getting googly-eyed at the dollar checks.
And they're not trying to buy you.
And truthfully, even if, for example, I was talking to one of the legislators and they said, we had a particular PAC that was supporting us, and they had come to us and said, we want you to support this particular piece of legislation. And she went back to her district and said, yeah, no, that's not going to be good for us. And the PAC said, well, we really want you to support it. She's like, well, I understand that, but I really am not going to support it. It's not good for our district. It's not a good piece of legislation for us. And you just have to be willing to stand up and, hey, if they don't write you a check next year, that's okay. You stood on your principles and you did what was right for your district, because at the end of the day, it's the people that elect you in. Those are the ones that you have to represent.
Absolutely. So nobody's actually, there's nobody on your radar right now as far
Oh,
as.
sure. You've always got people that are kind of on the radar, and folks that have jumped in there. And I guess technically, as far as PACs are concerned, you think about the things like the AFPs or others. To speak clearly, William Lamberth, who's the majority leader, so he does have a PAC. He did write a donation to our campaign. But as far as people that are like the special interest groups and that kind of thing, no, we have not had anybody come in and officially give us any money or any of that. And all of our disclosures they're online. You can pull all of our financial stuff, so it's there.
Any thoughts on AFP?
I feel like AFP I feel like they've got a really good handle on some things when it comes to education and legislation that they want to push. Now, I know that's gonna rub some people the wrong way, potentially, that are watching this, or maybe it's gonna rub people the right way. But at the end of the day, I know one of the things that we'll probably touch on, and if you want to touch on it now, we can, is school vouchers.
Yeah.
If you want to hit that one now.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Sure. Right. Let's just jump in.
Yeah.
So on school vouchers, there's a lot of talk about, should we, shouldn't we? What does that look like? At this point, it's in. Okay. And I know that the current General Assembly is looking at expanding the voucher program. For me, I feel like I've got a unique opportunity and view on this that probably none of the other candidates have, in that at the same time, our teenage daughter was in public school,
right.
Our teenage son was in private school at Pleasant View Christian. And so I understand absolutely how important it is to make 100% for sure that we don't lose any funding at all for our public schools. And we absolutely have to do everything we can to protect them financially. They're the backbone of our communities when it comes to education. But at the same time, being a dual income family like we are, I also understand the luxury of or people that don't have the luxury of just being able to financially write a check to send a child to private school if they want to. In those kinds of situations, if they need some voucher assistance to be able to make that happen, I can't fault them for wanting to take that. Now, I can say that my wife and I have not applied for the voucher. We haven't taken any voucher money or any voucher assistance. And to be honest, I don't know that we would even be able to qualify if we did.
Right.
But, having two kids in two different school systems inside of our district at the same time really gives me that kind of 50,000 foot overview to be able to see all of it. The one thing that I would say for sure is, if any legislator, no matter what it is, could be school vouchers, it could be, whatever it is, sometimes legislators will absolutely get hung up on having their name signed onto a bill.
Right.
And they want to be the sponsor, the co-sponsor, the originator, whatever it is. They need to also be able, as we talked about a second ago, to kind of check your ego at the door. They also need to be able to say, if they're looking at something 2, 3, 4 years down the road, and they're like, hey, we didn't think about this part of it, or, oh, we didn't see that particular angle, but here we are 3 or 4 years in, and we're like, we really probably ought to go back to the drawing board on this. Like, don't get so dug in on your ego that you're, oh, no, the bill's perfect and I've got to absolutely have this, because it's my legacy. No,
Right.
Scrap the ego, scrap the legacy, do what's best for your state, your district. And if you have to go back to the drawing board and redraw the legislation, go in and tweak it, repeal it, whatever it is, you got to be willing to do that.
Right. Well, I'll just let you know. I mean, on vouchers, my thought is, number one, I think they're unconstitutional according to our state constitution.
Mm-hmm.
It says provide for a public education. There's anything about private.
Right.
So that's my first.
Sure.
Toss to you.
Yeah.
Do you think it's constitutional?
I would say that the tricky part to that answer is, you've got attorneys on both sides that are absolutely fighting that out, that are saying it's constitutional, it's not constitutional. I'm not an attorney. You have to really kind of lean into the experts on that And, at some point, Dave, you kind of also have to go with your gut. But I will say this, whether it's our state constitution or the U.S. Constitution, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about some of these things coming up in a minute, whatever it is, those are pretty solid documents. I mean, they've worked really well for us for several hundred years.
Right.
I'm not a fan of getting outside of the lines when it comes to things constitutionally. It's tricky though when you've got two attorneys that are absolutely dead set that they're reading this particular verbiage this way, and it's interpreted two different ways. And I can tell you during my time as mayor, gosh, there were a lot of times that in a much smaller, not as significant way.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of times that we would have legislation on the books that had something to do with planning and zoning or codes or something to that effect. And you would get a developer that would come in and they would want to be able to fall within the parameter of, here's the box you created for us, and so we want to do a development that looks like this. And then you would have, well, no, that's not, and you can't do that. It's like, well, but it says we can. It's like, well, that wasn't the intent. Well, then why isn't the intent written down in what the language is?
I think the language
it's
is
tough.
pretty clear on this one. I mean, I do, and that's my personal opinion.
No,
and
I'm glad to have it.
And I'm not in your district. But,
No, I'm glad to have it. Thank you.
It says, public education. So
Yeah.
I don't really see a lot of wiggle room there. But
No,
that's
you're fine.
That's your call to make. If you get elected, well, that's your call to make, and that's certainly your call on a campaign. The other thing I guess that bothers me is I'm like, well, okay, we know we have problems in our schools, and it's not all it's not all the teachers. We have some good teachers. We have some bad teachers. Our society has degraded so much. The family has been pretty much decimated.
It has.
So what we
It has.
expect, it's even in me. I'm a little older than you, but not that much older. And
Thank you.
what the teachers had to deal with the hellions we were is nothing compared to what they have to do. So I understand that. At the same time, I'm like, okay, it's still the public education. It just seems to me like we want to throw money at it, and we're just going to create this little niche over here. And we're going to give it to people. We're going to give tax dollars that are going to go to private institutions, and I have a problem with that.
And you're right, and you touched on something that is so critically important. Where if you were to have a very quiet exit interview with a lot of teachers that quit after the first 2 or 3 or 4 years, like a lot of them will tell you, man, we were handcuffed, like legally, like the things that you would think common sense when you and I were in public education.
Right.
The things that are common sense that these teachers can't do now, it's like, oh my gosh, like, are you kidding me? And it's because, no offense to attorneys, but it's because some lawyer somewhere said, oh no, you can't do that. Or, the ACLU is going to slap us on the, like,
I say
then
all
let them
kinds-
slap us.
All kinds of offense to the attorneys.
Right. So, so when you get to that point and somebody's like, oh, well, we're afraid of the ACLU, great. Let them slap us. Let them try. Let's win the war of perception. Let's win the war in the public vernacular on this one, because I can promise you, we're very blessed in the state of Tennessee. We've got a lot of really solid minded people that understand, and they can sniff it out when it stinks, and they know. And so they see something and they're like, well, ACLU's off. They're off their rocker on this. Like we're very fortunate that we've got some good common sense people in this state.
We have some. I think we could use more, but we do have some.
We could always use more.
Okay, and I think I'm going to come back to this next question. I'm going to ask these others, and I'll come back.
Bounce
to this.
around.
So let's go to the Second Amendment.
Okay.
I'm a big Second Amendment guy, and a lot of people
Love
in Tennessee
that.
are.
Thank you.
And we have, from my experience, and I'm a member of the TFA. From my experiences, we have people who truly believe in the Second Amendment. Mm-hmm. And we have a lot of people, especially in the legislature, that are, we call them Second Amendment butters. I believe in a Second Amendment butter. If so, what to extent? Are you a true Second Amendment guy?
Right to keep and bear arms. Right to keep and bear arms. And I think that truthfully, I understand when it comes to tragedies that happen across this nation. whatever it is, okay, at the other end of a gun. I understand that it becomes a political hot potato that people love to toss back and forth, okay? All that does is distract people from the tragedy, okay? Bad people do bad things.
Yep.
If it's not a gun, it's a knife. If it's not a knife, it's a baseball bat. If it's not a baseball bat, it's a crowbar. You know, I taught our kids at a very early age. Gosh, Madison and Leon, they had to have been maybe 4 and 6 or 5 and 7, somewhere right in there.
Right.
I taught them that at a very early age. I went out of the gun safe, got one of our handguns, unloaded, of course, laid it on the kitchen table.
Yeah.
Okay. And I brought my kids into the kitchen, and I said, "Okay, what do you see?" We see Daddy's handgun. Great. Okay. Our gun's bad. And you could see their little, even at like 5 and 7, you could see their little wheels running, you know.
Right.
And they said, "Well, no." And I said, "Well, what happens if somebody uses that gun to kill someone? Is that gun bad?" And then you could see, well, is Dad trying to trick us with this, or like, where's he going with this? And I said, okay. I said, let me ask you this. I said, if we leave this gun right here, and then Mommy and Daddy throw a dinner party, and everybody comes over, and we all have dinner, and nobody touches that gun, it's just sitting on the kitchen table, is that gun going to kill anyone? They said, well, no. And I said, why? I said, but they said, well, somebody's got to touch the gun first. And I said, yeah. And I said, so do guns kill people or do people kill people? And they, at an early age, they knew, like, people kill people.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? So,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry, I got off on a tangent
that's
there.
fine. That's fine. And,
Yeah.
you know, especially we were talking a minute ago about the threat of, the Islamic threat. Plus, we just have all kinds of crazy people in this. Mm-hmm. And for politicians to want to disarm people, yet the law enforcement has no responsibility. I mean, they show up, they're the after the fact people. Mm-hmm. Okay, they show up and make the little chalk line and put up the little yellow tape to keep you out so they can figure out the blood splatters and all that. So really, especially at this time, but really all time, for them to do that. And not to mention, the Second Amendment was really created for, and I'll let you finish that.
Oh, it's right to keep and bear arms.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. It's for protection from the government.
Absolutely.
You know, I love and I'm sorry, we're bouncing around a little bit, but there's a really hot story in the news right now about the guy that is running for sheriff. While at the site, no, I think it was Arkansas, Oklahoma, somewhere. He's running for sheriff.
Yeah. Oh,
and at the same time is up on murder charges
Yep.
because he killed his daughter's sexual attacker.
Yep.
Okay. Like, I hate what happened to his daughter.
Right.
I love the complete and total irony of this story.
Yep.
And that guy's going to be the next sheriff.
Absolutely.
He's
Absolutely.
and darn well he should be.
Yeah. Hughes versus Lee. Any thoughts on that?
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know that one. You would have to tell me.
Okay. So the governor and the AG, we've had this intent to go armed clause in our Tennessee code annotated for decades.
Yes.
Even though we supposedly have a right to keep and bear arms, although they changed it in 1870 where it allows the state to regulate the wearing of arms with a view to reduce crime. Now, not long after that, there was a state Supreme Court decision that said, okay, that doesn't mean that you can just restrict it for the sake of restricting.
This is the one where if you're being reckless with the gun in public or perceived to be reckless.
Not intent to go armed. I mean, right now, technically, even though we have carry permits and whatnot, right now, technically.
But the police are able to intervene if there is a perception, if someone is being careless with it or something. I believe that is part of that, if I remember correctly.
That would be that. But it doesn't even have to be that. Right now, you were technically committing a crime in the state of Tennessee by being armed. Okay? Mm-hmm. You're technically doing that right now. But we do have...
You're not supposed to tell everybody I'm carrying.
Yeah, well, I'm carrying too. But we have, we do have our carry,
yes.
Which is, that's you call it a mitigating circumstance. But to have it in our Constitution, we have a right to keep and bear arms. Mm-hmm. And then for them to make it against the law,
it's conflicting.
It's crazy.
conflicting.
So there was a lawsuit, okay, Now, remember, we had the Bruin case at the federal level a couple years ago, and it basically said whatever the restrictions were, if the restrictions didn't exist in 1791, states can't do them now. Okay, and so this case came out of Dickson County. Basically, 3 people sued over the intent to go armed clause and also the guns and parks clause. A 3-judge panel in the state of Tennessee found that, hey, Governor and AG, your law is wrong, and you have to. Well, they appealed it instead of just saying, "Okay, you're right."
Interesting.
They appealed it.
Okay.
And it's still under appeal. So if you didn't know about it, you do now. You may want to do some digging. I know that they're working on legislation that will hopefully take care of that issue. But a lot of people are under the misconception in the state of Tennessee that, oh, well, we can carry. No. It's not the way it should be.
So how does that correlate with the open carry that we have currently?
Okay, we have different competing laws. Okay, so for instance, the governor a few years ago, when he said that he passed constitutional carry, that constitutional carry that he claims to have passed does not give you the same legal ability that we have if we have a carry permit.
Oh, interesting.
If you got the carry permit, you got the class, you got the fingerprints, you got all that. You paid your money.
Yes.
Okay. We can carry in more places than the people can under Bill Lee's phony constitutional carry. Anyway, I don't want to get too far down that trail.
No. But thank you for the education on it. Thank you.
But anyway, so we've kind of. We kind of understand where you're at on the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
So you're not a Second Amendment butter, right?
Oh, God, no.
Okay. All right. No. We already talked about the vouchers.
Yes.
I'm going to come back to that one. Okay. So let's do this one.
Okay.
Okay. You have another opponent now. You said you might actually have is there a third person in the race?
There is a third that has turned in their paperwork. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And they made it just in time because the deadline was the 10th?
This past, as of the recording of this, it was a week ago at noon on the 10th. Yes. Week and a half. Yes.
Who is that?
His name is John Greer.
John Greer. You know anything about it?
Not a whole lot. Not as much as I know about John Llewellyn, just because while he was the mayor in Pegram, I was the mayor in Pleasant View, and then of course he also served on school board there. So John and I have known each other for a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, question is this:
Yes.
Why are you a better choice?
That's a great question. So I tell people all the time, it's not necessarily that I think somebody else's way of doing things is worse than mine. I just feel like I've got the ability to go in and lean on my experience. I've got the voting track record to prove it. I also can lean into the relationships that I have to be able to hit the ground running on this district. Now, I know that, of course, obviously, I've seen enough of your podcast. I know that there's a little bristliness with some of the Republican leadership. But the one thing
that's probably an understatement. Okay.
I'm trying to be nice.
I got you.
But at the end of the day, when I was mayor, and somebody would call me and they would say, "Hey, I want to get this. I want to get this done. I need help with this, whatever it is." You were the top dog on a small level, but you were the top dog. I'd call my public works guy. I would call whoever and say, "We need to get this done. We need to get this handled. We need to do this." And it was, "Yes, sir, absolutely," and it would get handled. When you're the state representative, you have to work with the relationships that you've built with people up in Nashville, because in order to get something done for your district, you have to convince 49 other people to agree with you and see the wisdom of being able to get this accomplished. And so to go in with a cowboy mentality, which I can do, I've got the cowboy boots right now to prove it. To go in with a cowboy mentality and just say, no, I'm going to get this done, and come hell or high water, and just Katie bar the door. You can't. It's a relationship game.
But I'm not suggesting that, and I'm not going to speak for your opponent, but I'm not suggesting that's the way I understand that, yes. I think what gets a lot of people upset, a lot of conservatives in Tennessee, is it seems to be we send people up there.
Oh, and then they change.
That they ran as X, Y, or Z.
Yes.
And when they get up there, they're yes men.
Yeah.
And they sell you out completely. And it seems to be more important to make, in this case, the Speaker of the House,
Yes.
or the floor leader, or majority leader,
Yep.
whatever Spike's title is.
Majority leader.
Okay, majority. That's what
Yes.
I thought it was. So it seems to be more about, hey, well, I would vote for this. I believe in it, but hey, I can't vote for that because leadership will. Here's my that really irritates me, because to me, the way I see that, when I see somebody doing that, it's like, not only does that person, whether it's the governor, whether it's the speaker, majority, whoever, when they do that to another legislator,
Right.
they are not only giving the finger to that legislator,
But also to
they're
that
giving it
district.
to his whole district.
That whole district.
And so that's
Yeah.
what I think is one of the concerns is, we know that you can't go up there from day one and stalk out your territory and say, I'm going to, deliberately fight with you on tooth and nail. But you know what? They should not expect you to go up there
And just roll over.
compromise your principles.
And just roll over.
We do have a constitution. We have a state
Yeah.
constitution. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of them take an oath of that. I swear some of them have never read the state or the U.S. Constitution. And if they have, they don't care. And I think that's what really irritates. It's not that we expect people to go up there and be a cowboy.
Right.
Or that we expect people to go up there and say things like I say about the governor, which, by the way, I would say to his face, but I'm also not an elected official.
Right.
Okay, I got that.
Excuse me.
But we don't expect them to roll over
Right.
either and be yes men.
Yeah.
And I think that's what really irritates a lot of people.
Part of that, and again, as I'd started to say, you've got to work on those relationships, and you've got to be able to have relationships with the other legislators,
Right.
first and foremost, because ultimately those people are sending you up there to represent your district. And if you can't get anything done for your district because you can't get other people to see the wisdom in helping you in your district,
Right.
then what good are you? You're essentially a lame duck. But there is a fine line, and you are 100% correct in that if you get up there and you just roll over, or you're just a yes man, the people that elected you to send you up there, those people have the ultimate say, as they should. They absolutely should have the ultimate say to be able to say, hey, look, we didn't send you up there to do that. You're out. Bring the next batter out of the box and let's give them a try. And it doesn't do any good to just roll over like that. You've got to represent the will of the people. And that was one of the things that sometimes, even as mayor of Pleasant View, there were some votes that we had to take where all of us as city council members were like, I don't want to go against the will of the people on this one. And you go with the people because guess what? They elected you.
Right.
And you're there to represent them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So are you going to be able to resist the pressure when you get up there and, hey, the governor wants this?
Well, I'll put it this way. I've got enough gray hair, and I got enough of my dad's attitude in me that I can absolutely resist the pressure. So not a problem there.
All right. Now we're going to go back to this one. Unless you got anything else you want to hit on that?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Now this one I know, and I'm bringing this one up for two reasons.
Yes.
Number one, I support it.
Okay.
Number two, I brought it up with John.
Okay.
And it was one of those last minute things, and I don't remember now how it came about, but I asked him, so I'm going to ask you.
Please.
There is a nullification process bill that's going to be in committee, I think, on Wednesday. And it's by Representative Halsey, and actually the Senate version by Senator Bolin will be in the Senate committee. I can't recall which committee right off. Anyway, now nullification, I don't know how familiar you are with it. I think I'd mentioned something to you about it.
Yes.
But you may not know this. Our state legislature in 2021, October 2021,
I remember.
during COVID.
Oh, I remember.
Okay, they had a special session, and this is not why they called it a special session. They called it for other purposes. But they did actually, and it was a nullification resolution, not a bill, but it's a resolution. Okay, but that's really all they had to do. And this was directed towards the federal government. At the time, they were overreaching they were wanting people to force vaccines and
Yes.
this, that, and the other.
Or we're going to withhold our funding.
Right. And our legislature,
started.
to their credit, which is not something I give them a lot of very often, okay, to their
I know.
credit, They passed a nullification legislation, and they laid out the historical backing for it, okay? Going back to the nullification during what was it? Principles of 98. Good Lord, escapes my mind. The Madison and Jefferson did the, I can't believe it. Can't think. Anyway.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Basically, when the Constitution was created, the states created the federal government, not the other way around. And to put the federal government in check, because we always wonder why the federal government's so out of control. It's so out of control because the states allow it to be so out of control. The states are the only ones who can effectively check the federal government. And I don't mean you're going to do it every little time, okay, but on some serious things. And apparently our state, to their credit, felt like it was significant enough that we needed to let them know, hey, look, we not only have the right to nullify unconstitutional federal action, we had the responsibility to nullify unconstitutional federal action. We take an oath. Now, most of those people are still in office, especially in the Senate. And Randy McNally, he was the Senate. He was the Senate sponsor, and Sexton was the House sponsor. Every Republican in the House, every Republican in the Senate. There may have been a couple here and there that whose names were not on that.
Right.
Maybe they didn't show up. They didn't want to, whatever.
Right.
But there was no fight. People signed on to this. And so that was in 2021. There was a bill ran, and it's a little different version than the current one right now, which is a process bill, and I'll explain that in a minute. The bill, when they ran it in 22, got nowhere. It's as if these people had total amnesia of what they just did. They ran the bill again in 23, and it was a significantly different bill. It's essentially the bill that I'm talking about now. And it's a process bill, and basically what that means is it establishes 4 or 5 different ways that a federal action, whether it's a federal law, federal regulation, Supreme Court opinion, because they give opinions,
Right.
or an executive order.
Executive order from the governor.
That, well, no, we're talking now from
Oh,
federal
from the
to
federal.
state.
Okay, thank you.
That, hey, look, we're just saying that if it's unconstitutional, our state has a right and a responsibility to step in, and this bill establishes ways for that to happen. It could be a legislator. So if you're up there,
Correct.
and you're thinking, hey, you know what, this recent federal action, whatever it is, I just don't think that's constitutional. Now, the normal process would be file a bill and take it through the committee and,
Right.
all this does is, okay, you're going to file this, and it's going to be heard by both houses, and they're going to vote on it. Okay? They're not going to go, they're not going to send it to the committee to die.
Right.
They're going to vote on it. They may say, hey, we agree with you, and we're going to do X, Y, or Z. It doesn't
Right.
dictate what they do.
Right.
Or, hey, Perry, you're crazy. We're not going to do it. Okay? Whatever. They still make they ultimately make the decision. Another way was, obviously the governor, which he can always do this.
Yes.
An executive order.
That's the one I was talking about.
Right. He can
Yes.
say, he can do an executive order. He can already do that.
Yes.
Within an executive branch. And he say, hey, look, this came down from the federal government. It's not constitutional. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to order my people. And guess what? If the legislature says, hey, Governor, we think you're wrong, they can always override him, right?
Right.
Because he's a weak. Tennessee's set up for a weak governor, not set up for.
It's not strong governor situation. Yeah.
And then of course there's the court. That's one way, and then you could do it with a X number of counties. I think it was like 10 counties, or municipalities, and they could do a resolution. The legislature would take it. They would take it to the whole body, and they would say, yeah, we're going to look into this. We think it's legit. Or, nope, you're crazy. We're not doing it, whatever. And
Right.
then the last one would be, I think it was like 2,000 certified voters could present something. Now, I'm sure that would probably end up being a whole lot higher than 2,000. But they're just processes.
Right.
But these guys have fought this tooth and nail since then. They did it in 2021. But now they fought it since then tooth and nail.
So I know,
I know you're
for
just
us,
finding out about this bill, but I'm just curious your opinion
Yes.
of federal power versus state power, okay? Because remember, the states created the
They
federal
get-
government, and they
absolutely.
delegated
They delegated the power
and
to the-
only
yes.
certain powers, right?
So, for me, I think, like a lot of our constituents, we need to bring more power back to the states. First and foremost, okay? I think that there's a real opportunity that we've got, especially with the Republican supermajority, even though it's your opinion that we've got some weak ones, and I get that.
Right.
But I feel like with a Republican supermajority, the way that we have, that we've got an opportunity to truly push to try and bring more power back to the states. Even with the government the way that we have right now, no matter who the next governor is going to be, I think all three of these folks would get on board with bringing more power back to the states, okay? I know Monty running.
Right.
I know how he feels on it. With Marcia and John, them being on a federal level, I know that they see the wisdom in it as well. So I feel like if we've got people that can really encourage, like we've got a real shot to truly put some of that stuff in place. The thing that comes in a lot of times, and as you know, the government loves to try to muscle the states around, say, well, if you don't play ball, we're going to take away your money.
Yeah.
And, but for us, love them or hate them, the Republicans that we've got up there have done a good job of helping us build the rainy day fund to the point where, and we've got enough businesses that are coming into the state of Tennessee
Right.
that we're pretty economically sound. And because of that, we were able to push back in 2021 and say, hey, you know what, that's fine. Withhold your money. We don't need it anyway. And that was great to see. I love that. Nothing makes me happier than to see something like that get stuck where it needs to go.
And the thing you said, funding, that's the thing. All these things that the federal government does that they're not authorized to do.
Right.
Okay?
But that doesn't happen. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but, it does happen. And here's the thing. We keep waiting for them to give it back to us.
Yeah.
But they're not going to give it back to us.
Right.
We have to take it back. And I don't mean we have to shoot them, although some of them definitely deserve it. I don't mean that. Okay?
His words, not mine.
What I mean is, okay, you know what? This is a state function.
Yeah.
We're going to pay for it.
Yeah.
Okay, and we don't want. Now I know the whole argument is, well, if we don't take it, somebody else will take it. But that's why we're $40 trillion in debt.
Right.
Or part of the reason.
Right.
So.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Anything you want to add to that? You want to?
No, I think that's something.
Is there a noose you want to put on?
No,
Okay.
I think that summarized it pretty well. So.
Okay.
Good job. Thank you.
Okay.
No,
All right.
But to leave it at, definitely, we need to bring more power down to the states. We just do. And it's easy for me to sit here and say this because we're in a Republican
Right.
area. Okay. Other states, God bless them, like California, you give more power to that state.
Oh, yeah.
Lord only knows how that's going to go.
Yeah.
So we're pretty fortunate here that, again, while there's some that may not toe the line as conservatively as others, or some don't toe it as conservatively as maybe we would like, at the end of the day, we're pretty blessed in this state to be able to push back on some stuff the way that we do, because you've got a lot of good common sense people here, not just in my district but across the entire state.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And we're not going to agree on all that or all names, but
No,
we do.
that's okay.
We are in a better position financially, although I think we're spending too much. But we are in a better position financially than a lot of states. We don't
Yeah.
have like a huge pension deficit or whatever.
I
I still
would
think
agree.
we spend way too much money.
Now, I won't disagree with you there. I think that, especially, seeing how much it has increased over the last few years. And I know that you've got inflation, and I know that you've got, cost of living increases and that kind of thing that, are out of anybody's control. We can't help the fact that asphalt costs more today than it did 5 years ago. And that, but within reason, you have to expect it to grow to a certain extent, but maybe not to how much it's grown. It's out there.
Absolutely.
It's a big number.
And I've got a question from somebody in the chat.
Nice.
Okay, he asked, are we trusting attorneys or not? We're supposed to trust them about vouchers, but not about what we can do in a classroom.
Oh, okay. Are we?
That's the question. So we're trusting them. We're supposed, and this is, I guess, based on our conversation. We're supposed to trust them about vouchers, but not about what we can do in a classroom.
Okay. All right. So, it's, I'll take that in 2 points. Okay. So as far as the classrooms, I think that to a certain extent, we've got way too much. We have people that are just way too afraid of things like the ACLU and some others that, again, especially when you get into a classroom situation, you've got people that are absolutely terrified. And, part of that, Dave, is because lawsuits are expensive.
Oh, yeah.
And you get into some of our rural counties like Stewart County.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Like if the ACLU comes knocking, like they don't have the money in their budget to really even through municipal means where you've got like the TML and those types of things that will stand behind you in a lawsuit situation with their attorneys. Like they just don't have it to be able to fight against it. And so it's sad, but I understand why they bend at the knee.
Well, let me ask you this.
Sad.
And this just really just popped in. I've talked to somebody about it before, but okay, the schools are state schools.
Mm-hmm.
So in a case where, unless they're violating a state policy,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and I'll give you a perfect example. And this was Stewart County, okay, and this happened in 2019 after Trump was in office. Found out that the director of schools and at the time, the Title IX lady, I can't remember her name, they had some confused kids in our district, and this is in high school, that, Mark wanted to be called Mary and so on and so forth, and they were even accommodating them on the bathrooms. I guess to keep them out of the bathroom, they were letting them use the faculty bathroom, okay?
Okay.
And they were basically, well, if we don't, we'll get sued and we might lose. And of course, even if they don't lose, suits cost money.
Yeah.
Now, what we found out was this was not just necessarily home generated. They called up to the state education department.
Oh,
and the
goodness
liberal lawyers
gracious.
in the state education department. Now, they were not sending this out to the schools, but if the schools called and asked about that situation, you had lawyers in there that were still trying to enforce Obama policy. It took forever to get that thing quashed, and I don't know that we actually got it quashed because then COVID hit, and I'm still hearing different things.
Oh, yeah.
But so why in that case, why does the state not take it instead of allowing the district to flop out there on their own?
I think that's probably coming from a lack of leadership on an executive level, not pointing the finger at the governor specifically, but the people that it might be over, hypothetically, the Department of Education. Okay. And so we'll just go there and say, maybe that person isn't giving the backbone like they should to be able to really push back on this, because you would think, as you said, if anybody's got the money to fight something like boys and girls bathrooms,
It would be the state.
it would be the state.
Yeah.
Like, hey, let's take that one and let's do the battle there, and that's, again, like boys and girls bathrooms, like it's things like that. They're just so common sense. It's like, why are we even fighting about this, people? Like, give me a break. Like, what, like, that's why, what, like, why are we, what common sense is that? But yet here we are.
Yeah. And it's even worse.
Yeah.
So, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, just to kind of wrap it up and say that for people that have liked what they've heard today, or if they have other questions, they can always reach out. I humbly ask for people's vote for this district because it's really important. We're pretty fortunate that.
If you want to look
Sorry.
at the camera and ask for the
Oh,
vote,
thank
can.
you. So I humbly ask for your vote. For people in our district, we're fortunate that it's just about a 70%. It's red. It's 70%. And so we know that the Republicans that we've got that are running are going to represent. But I really want to be that one. And I hope that you guys have enjoyed hearing where we're at on some of our issues, whether we agree 100% or not. I've enjoyed being able to come on the show and just try to educate our voters, but also to hear your point of view on your topics as well. And, for us, that's probably the biggest asset that I can offer, is that whether we agree 100% or not, I'm always going to listen. I've got the track record to prove that. Anybody can go back and look at our Facebook page, back even from when I was mayor, all 8 years of that. You can see where people would ask me questions. whether they tried to, string me up the flagpole or wanted to talk about how great we are, every single comment, every single response, all of those things are there. You can get a true feel for who I am, how I lead, and what I want to be able to do for this district. You can always get more information on me through our website, which is voteforperry.com, vote for Perry. And
got it up there.
Oh, I know that guy. He's a pretty good guy. Y'all should get to know him. So,
and he's modest.
And he's very modest. So my wife says that my humility is probably my best asset. You can't take yourself too serious when you're doing this kind of stuff. You have to be relatable, and people, in our district, they, especially in the Cheatham County side, they already know that. And as they're learning who I am over in the Dickson County side of our district, I feel like they're getting a pretty good handle on that as well. I really
Any
do.
upcoming events?
We just had our campaign kickoff this past Thursday over in Ashland City, and that one, gosh, man, I was so humbled. We had 126 people come. Of course, we also fed them all. So the food's pretty darn good at Hangar 13 in Ashland City. The burgers are on point for sure. So, it's easy to get people there when you feed them. But we had that event this past Thursday. It was a great event. We're going to be doing one in a couple of weeks. It's going to be a kickoff in Dickson County as well. And so we're excited to announce those details here probably next week once we get the date and time 100% nailed down. So be on the lookout for that from our Facebook page or some level of social media somewhere. So
Okay.
yeah, so we're excited, man. And then of course you've got all kinds of events that are coming up between now and midsummer. And so our early voting starts in July. Right. So July 17th, and then our primary is August 6th.
Now, the 24th event in Cheatham County, that's at Hangar 13, and that's
yes.
for all local races.
Awesome. Thank you for
And it
mentioning
doesn't cost
that.
anything. But, just if you're in the district, you can show
That's
up.
absolutely.
You're buying your own meal, but
buying your own.
Okay.
I'm not on the hook this time for that one.
Okay,
So,
okay.
But that one is going to be for all the local races. Sheriff, mayor, which the sheriff's unopposed. Mayor, you've got county commissioners, trustee, and others. And so that one's going to be on the 24th in Ashland City, and I believe that's at 5:00. But we'll be looking on social media for that one. We'll put a link to that one in one of our comments.
Okay. Well, hey, thank you for being with us.
Hey, God bless, man. And seriously, thank you for having me come in. The studio setup is fantastic. Y'all have got a really great facility here.
I like it. I enjoy it.
Yeah. And thank you for the banter back and forth. I enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Hey, don't go away. We're going to be right back in a little bit with some announcements and some details on some upcoming bills. So we'll be back in about 5 minutes.
Light, the energy of life itself. Since the beginning of time, light has sustained us, fueled our growth, and shaped the world. Even Einstein recognized that everything we are is made of light. But what if we could harness the light within us, not just to live, but to renew, restore, and rejuvenate? Introducing LifeWave X39, the first product in the world that activates stem cells using our body's own light. Backed by clinical research, multiple patents, and over 10 years of stem cell research, a revolutionary wearable light technology that unlocks the power of activating our own stem cells with a single, safe, affordable, non-transdermal patch that puts you back in control of how you look, feel, and perform. Unlike drugs or chemicals, X39 works naturally, awakening your body's ability to heal and thrive. It's time to unlock your full potential, restore your vitality, and embrace a healthier, more vibrant you.
Welcome back. There's a lot going on this week in the General Assembly, and I'm going to cover several of the bills that you need to know about. I'm actually going to cover some of the ones that I had to write by hand this afternoon so that I don't forget them. Now, has to do with some legislation and an event that is going to be at the legislature this week, the 18th. Tennessee Firearms Association Day on the Hill, TFA Day on the Hill, March 18th. Richard Archie is going to be testifying for House Bill 2064, which is going to deal with the issue of the intent to go armed that we talked about earlier. And he's also going to testify, he's testifying in support of that bill by Representative Todd, and he's going to talk in opposition to House Bill 1971. Now, House Bill 1971 is the one where they want to take away your right to facially challenge the constitutionality of a state law of any state law that they pass. So very important, and we need people there. So if you're in the TFA, this is going to be in the House Judicial Committee, the full committee, at 1200, at 12 o'clock on the 18th, Wednesday the 18th. You really need to get there that morning and go around to some of the offices and encourage some of the people that are going to be on the committee, certainly your rep, to support House Bill 2064 and to oppose House Bill 1971. And if you're going to, that committee room is going to be packed. So it starts at 12. You're probably going to need to get in there by 11 to get a seat. After the hearings, the TFA has a room set aside for everybody to meet, and they'll meet up there and talk with you a little bit. And I know this was kind of a short notice, but Richard and John have both been really, really swamped. And so that's why that's part of the reason we have a short notice on this. Now, wear your TFA gear, and hey, be respectful up there. I know that we don't think a lot of the legislators up there, but you got to be decent to them and to their staff. Okay, I'll tell you what, the quickest way to be persona non grata up there is to be rude to one of their staff. So be nice, be professional, but be firm. So I'm going to cover a couple of bills here real quick before I go back to what's on the screen. Now, this bill I just found out about, and you need to go read it on the Tennessee Conservative. It is House Bill 1925 by Bolso, Senate Bill 2037 by Gardenhire. Now, Bolso is one of the better guys in the House generally. And so I'm a little bit surprised at this bill. I did not get a chance to talk to him today. I did call and didn't get a chance to get, maybe his intent, but just reading the bill, I'm like, what are we thinking here? And of course, since Senator Gardenhire is involved, Senator Gardenhire never met a pro-illegal alien bill that he didn't like, okay? And I'm just going to read you here about this act. It's called the One America Act. And it would allow some illegal aliens to obtain a temporary visa and re-enter the country and state after an interview with the Tennessee Department of Homeland Security. And the way it works is it would apply to anyone who has been here more than 30 days. Now, of course, that's 30 days from the time this passes, and I don't remember if this one is scheduled for July or January of next year, but anybody who's been here more than 30 days. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get it, but I don't understand why we're catering to illegal aliens. So once they do the interview, DHS will have 30 days to decide. And if they decide that, okay, that person qualifies, that person will have 90 days to leave the country. Then they have to remain out of the country for 30 days before they come back. And then they'll get they would get a 1-year visa. And then after that 1-year visa would be easier to turn into a, permanent visa. Now, granted, there's going to be some federal involvement in this, but I don't understand why we're doing this. We haven't gotten rid of near enough of these illegal aliens. I don't know why we're making legislation that's going to try to bring them back. It's insane. So we need to call that committee, and this is in the House, it is the House Departments and Agency Subcommittee. And then in the Senate, it is the Senate State and Local Government Committee. So we need to call about both of those, or call both of those committees about that legislation. And this, These are going to be in there tomorrow, okay? So, I mean, I was not tracking this, and so I'm getting it to you as quick as I could, but it'll be there tomorrow. You guys need to call. Also, Representative Halsey, I think maybe one of the few pieces of election legislation still alive, House Bill 2613, Tennessee Ballot Access Act. This is another election integrity bill, and that's going to be in the Election Campaign Finance Subcommittee tomorrow at, it doesn't have the time, but tomorrow. So call early in the morning. Call first thing, okay? All right, so now everything else is on the screen here. So I'm going to cover some of these, and I've got a few comments about some of them. All right, so, and I want to reiterate this. Senate Bill 1958, House Bill 1971. Of course, House Bill 1971 will be in the House Judiciary, full Judiciary, on Wednesday, 12 o'clock. Many of you have heard about this bill. It's going to end our right to make a facial challenge to the constitutionality of a state law. It's currently scheduled for the 18th in the House Judiciary. No word yet on Senate Bill 1958, okay? So regardless of what happens Wednesday, we're not sure, when 1958 is going to come back up. All right, House Bill 2610 by Halsey. This is on the State and Local Government Committee. It'll be Wednesday, the 18th as well. And this is the nullification process bill I talked about earlier, Restoring State Sovereignty Through Nullification Act, which establishes processes by which the General Assembly may nullify an unconstitutional federal statute, regulation, agency order, or executive order. And then Senator Bowling has a Senate companion bill with Senate Bill 2657. That's on the Senate State and Local Government Committee calendar for tomorrow. So we have to call tomorrow for Senator Bowling's bill, and then Wednesday, Representative Halsey's bill will be in committee. So tomorrow is the big day. The Senate has really been our problem. In the past, Representative Halsey has been able to move it through some of the House committees, but Senator Bowling, we talked a little bit about this earlier. Every time these guys act as if this whole idea of nullification is out there and crazy, even though they did it. And the people on that committee, in that Senate committee, the only one, other than the Democrats, but all the Republicans in there, with the exception of Lowe, voted for nullification in 2021. Nullification legislation I talked about earlier tonight. They voted for it. Now they're hiding behind an AG's opinion who says it's unconstitutional. Guys, when the Constitution was ratified, it was ratified with the understanding that the states, which created the federal government, have the ultimate power to determine what is constitutional. And they were expected to push back when the federal government exceeded their power. Remember, the federal government's only delegated certain powers. So it makes no sense that we're going to allow the federal government or expect the federal government to limit their own power. It's only going to happen if the states limit it. And no, that does not mean we have to go to war. The states have to step up. House Bill 1729, this is the homeschool testing requirements. I still don't see the amendment that was mentioned on this. I mean, there was talk of an amendment, but it's still not posted on the website, or it wasn't earlier. I've noticed that this year. Now, just so you understand how the process works, when a bill is filed, and it's got to be heard in committee, and if there's an amendment to it, so they have to make a motion on the bill, for the committee have to make a motion to hear the bill, then they have to make a motion to hear the amendment. If they don't make a motion to hear the bill, then there's not going to be any motion to hear the amendment. And then we won't see anything on the website until after the amendment has been voted on, all right? I keep hearing about an amendment, still haven't seen it on this one. This is and the thing is, it's referred in earlier hearings, they referred to it as, okay, recommended for passage if amended, but we still don't know what the amendment says, okay? And it's on the Education Committee for tomorrow. And Senate Bill 2636 is placed on the Senate Education Committee for Wednesday. That's the companion bill. House Bill 1823, by Rapier. It'll be on the Education Committee for the 17th. That's the truancy bill. That's really a parental rights bill, is what it comes down to. Otherwise, what this bill intends to do is, in cases of truancy, they're going to let a judge decide, if that kid can homeschool or not. And matter of fact, that judge may decide, well, no, we're going to put this kid in this school, and take that right away from the parent. I mean, I think we've ceded way too much authority to the state and to the schools under the guise of education. Parental rights should still mean something. And like I say, that one's on the Education Committee for tomorrow. And let me give you a little more detail on that one. As introduced, requires a director of schools to refer to juvenile court a student who was formerly enrolled in the LEA who was receiving truancy interventions. And when you hear truancy, don't think it's somebody that, hey, they've missed 30 days. It could be a lot less than that. It could be 3 days, 5 days, depending on the LEA. Interventions who withdrew from the LEA and who did not transfer to another LEA. Establishes that unexcused absences accumulated by a transfer student at their former school or LEA during the school year in which they transfer follow the student to the receiving school or LEA to determine habitual truancy, to implement a progressive truancy plan, and to identify cases of educational neglect. And that one's already passed in the Senate. I think Lowe had it in the Senate. Okay, emergency powers. If you remember back during COVID, the governor, who, if you look in the Constitution, really doesn't have a lot of power, somehow they gave him these emergency powers, and he declared that certain people who had legal occupations, that those occupations were non-essential. Okay, and this is a companion bill with Representative Fritz, but this is Senate Bill 1048 by Bowling. It's placed on the Senate regular calendar. Actually, that one, I apologize. That one was already voted on the day, and I do not know the status of it. And if it passed, though, the companion House bill by Representative Fritz has been referred to the Calendar and Rules Committee. Okay. House Bill 1737 by Representative Fritz is also on the Criminal Justice Subcommittee for Wednesday. And this does a lot of the same things that 2064 does on Wednesday. It removes the intent to go armed issue from the TCA, as it also deals with the guns in parks. It does some other things too. And Representative Fritz, of course, is running for governor, and the thought is they're probably going to try to kill most of his bills, unfortunately. But this is another bill. If House Bill 2064 doesn't get through, this is another stab at dealing with the intent to go armed issue. So hopefully one of those two will pass. There's a lot of important bills in the General Assembly this week. Please check out TNCSS at Weebly.com, especially if you want to know more about the nullification bill. Maybe you're just now hearing about it. You don't understand the concept of nullification. You don't understand the process bill. It's all right there, plus a lot of good historical information to back it up with. I did mention the one electoral bill or one election integrity bill. There may be others out there, but you know what? The best place to look is TennesseeFairElections.org. Tennessee Stands has a lot of good coverage of different types of bills that are going on. Obviously, anything firearm related, Tennessee Firearms Association. Tennessee Eagle Forum also has good information on bills. FreeYourChildren.com is who I would recommend that you look to for information on homeschool issues. Okay, for our Republican majority this year, they failed to deliver on issues such as abortion, annexation, Second Amendment, election integrity, parental rights, and protecting individual rights in emergency situations. So far, they haven't delivered. Okay, and I'll probably talk about that abortion issue here in a minute. We need to remember this in August. There's no reforming most of these people. They just need to be replaced. Now, this next one, this goes back to the abortion bill that Representative Barrett presented in committee yesterday. And this is a picture of this failed abortion bill. But I want to talk about this a little bit so that you get some background on it. Now, if you remember, Tennessee passed a trigger law a few years back prior to Roe v. Wade being overturned, prior to the Dobbs decision. And in that trigger law, they established certain things that, okay, if the Supreme Court ever overrules Roe v. Wade, here is going to be how things are in Tennessee, okay? And I think I hope I brought the notes on this. No, I didn't. I'll go by memory as best as I can. Here's what you need to know. So when that trigger law was passed, it was already intended that a doctor that performed an abortion, now there were certain exceptions in the abortion, okay? Now the trigger law did not have an exception for rape. That's, neither here nor there, but it didn't have one for rape. It did have some for the life of the mother, and I think that was, for the most part, it was the life of the mother that it had an exception for, that, okay, if they had to do something, or if they were treating the child before it had been born and something happened, then, there were exceptions as long as they did everything the way they were supposed to do it and they weren't negligent. Then there wouldn't be any prosecution. But abortion was made illegal. Now, the whole guise of this and the whole guise of Representative Fritz's bill, which I think will be heard tomorrow or Wednesday, and I don't remember the bill number on that, has to do with this. So treating the unborn, we've already agreed that it's a life. We agree that it's a life beginning at conception. That's already in the trigger law. That's not something that was created by either Representative Barrett's law or Representative Fritz's law. And basically it's saying, okay, we're going to punish a doctor if he commits an abortion in the state of Tennessee. Well, what's happening now, for the most part, they're not getting those type of abortions, but we have a lot of women who order abortion pills from out of state. Now, there's a lot of medical complications in some cases, and you've heard all these horror stories. A couple things to keep in mind. That list of people that we just showed that refused to hear the bill, they didn't even make a motion on the bill. When you take a bill before committee, there has to be a motion and a second. If you don't get a motion and a second, your bill doesn't get heard. House Bill 570 by Representative Barrett, he obviously had an amendment that he was going to add, because if you read the bill online, it's obviously a caption bill. Caption bills just identify the relevant codes. They don't really tell you anything about the bill, and that could be good or bad. But when you present an amendment for a caption bill, so you first have to get a motion and a second on the bill. Then you get a motion and a second on the amendment. He didn't even get a motion and a second on the bill, which means he could not present his amendment, which means all of the many falsehoods that were put out there about, all the claims they were making, about the bill, that was basically, he didn't have a chance to present the actual bill and debate the actual bill, the amendment, because he couldn't even present the bill. They wouldn't even allow it. Now, these are all, the Republicans control all these committees. They control every one of them. They should have at least given him a motion and a second. Hear the bill, hear the amendment. That doesn't mean they have to vote for it. But all he was doing was putting teeth in the existing law. Okay, and yes, those teeth included that a woman who took an abortion, who took a pill, okay, and committed an abortion on her own, could be charged. That's all it meant. I mean, think about it. If it's a life, if you agree if it's a life, and if you would charge somebody who did something to that woman and in the process killed her baby, or maybe killed her and her baby, they would be charged with 2 murders, right? Or if they killed the baby, they'd be charged with a murder. If you're going to charge the doctor with murder for abortion, why would you not charge the woman who takes a pill knowing it's going to kill her baby? Why would you not charge them? Now, we made the pills illegal, but they're getting them from out of state. So that's a whole different problem trying to deal with that. But they make it out like both Representative Barrett and Fritz are out to kill women or something, and no, they're just trying to put teeth in existing Tennessee statutes. And I know a lot of Tennessee laws don't have any teeth. A lot of them have no teeth. So that's really all this is about, It's taking the existing understanding of the trigger law and it's putting some teeth in it, okay? That's what it's doing. Now, I think with Representative Fritz's bill, which has not been heard yet, it also, I think it's going to do some issues about these surgeons who do operations on kids, to change their gender. I think that is part of that as well. Anyway, hopefully he will get to present his bill and the amendment so we can at least have a debate on it. They do this a lot of times. The leadership does this just because they don't want to debate something, they don't want to talk about something, they want it to go away, or because they don't like the people bringing it, or they're mad at the people that brought it for whatever reason. So just keep that in mind. But hey guys, I can't cover all the bills in here. You need to read them for yourself. If you have questions, try to contact the legislators yourself and get some clarification. I do the best I can to relay things accurately, but I'm not perfect. So if you got questions, hey, contact the legislator. A couple of other things here. Number one, I appreciate you guys watching. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch our program. Doesn't cost anything to subscribe, so please be sure to hit the like and subscribe button as well as the notification bell so you never miss an episode. We appreciate your support. Our goal is 1,000 subscribers. We need about another 60 to make that goal right there. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please do and share us with your friends. Check out our audio podcast on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and other platforms as well. Sign up for our weekly newsletter at our website, teeninformer.com. Find and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Got a couple of announcements here. Thursday, March 19th, 6 p.m., Monty Fritz will be speaking to the Pickett County GOP. And actually, I got late notice. I think this is going to be rescheduled. I think this one may be rescheduled. Okay, I'll get back with you on that one. Saturday, March 21st, from 1 to 6 p.m. Central, constitutional attorney Jeff Cobble, and if you've never heard him speak, you need to go hear him. He's going to discuss the 14th Amendment, the portal to the abyss, and it definitely is. No cost, but donations are appreciated. RSVP by calling 931-316-9639. That's 931-316-9639. It'll be held at the Peachtree Learning Center, 100 North Main Street, Sparta, Tennessee. The Stewart Henry County chapter of the Tennessee Fire Association will meet for a special event Tuesday, March 31st, 7 p.m. at the Stewart County Visitor Center, 117 Visitor Center Lane off Donaldson Parkway, that's Highway 79 in Dover, Tennessee. Our featured speaker is Tiffany Boyd, former tenured public school teacher, founder of Free Your Children, which seeks to equip citizens to defend parental and educational rights through Christian discipleship and constitutional advocacy. She's an education consultant, podcast host, and education researcher. She's a monthly contributor to the Murfreesboro Pulse. Her work has been featured in the Daily Wire, the Liberty Sentinel, WorldNet Daily, WSMV, the Christian Post, and the Blaze. I've had her on this show a few times and we'll probably have her again in the future. Membership is not required to attend. All are welcome. Join us next Monday, March 23rd, 7 p.m. when our guest will be Joe Wolverton, here to talk about nullification and how essential it is to our Constitution to work as intended. Guys, if you don't understand nullification, you want to know more, tune in next Monday, 7 p.m. Please take the time to check out other shows brought to you by West Tennessee TV by going to westtennesseetv.com or myparistv.com. You can find links to the Mike Weatherford Show and Sportcast with Jeremy Bucklow. Tomorrow night, Mike welcomes his hit songwriter Bobby Keel. That guy lives in Stewart County. Known for his hit song Time Off for Bad Behavior, performed by David Allan Coe. He also wrote a Hank Jr. song, Whiskey on Ice. That might be familiar to some of you. And then next Sunday, Jeremy dives into the world of jiu-jitsu with the Paris Gracie Academy. Lots of great programming, including yours truly. Check them all out at myparistv.com. That's it for now. Good night from Paris, Tennessee, that is.